Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Under the Surface. Today, we have a very exciting guest. Welcome, Penina Davidson. We actually just played against each other in a WNBL game like 2 hours ago, but very excited to have you, Penina.
Thank you. We should have just driven here together.
I know. We were talking about that just before. Like it's pretty exciting because it's like a very unique situation that we get to talk about some things directly post a basketball game. But for anyone listening, Melbourne Boomers just beat us. So we lost to them. And now I have to sit down and talk to Penina. So, great. No, it's very exciting. And I was just telling everyone else in the room that about 2 years ago, we sat down at my dad's place around the fire, me, you, Marina, my partner, and we talked about a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. And we sat down from about maybe like 8 o'clock to almost 2 a.m, just talking and talking and talking about all things that aren't talked about enough.
Yeah.
And when I thought about starting this podcast, one of the people that I wanted to speak to was you, because I remember that conversation so much in my brain, and it's really a lot of the stuff has really kind of stuck with me, the way that we view things very similarly. And I just think that you have a lot of things that people need to hear, like there's your perspective on stuff, and who you are as a person is very special. So jumping into things, I kind of want to start with the fact that, yes, we just played a basketball game. Post game has always been very difficult for me. And for you, I kind of wanted to ask, when the game stops and you step off the floor, and today is a great time to ask because it just happened. How do you wind down and like turn that basketball part off?
It's a bit of a mindset I think I've had to develop over a period of time, because I used to think it was the end of the world after a basketball game. And then I was like, wait a minute, how many basketball games am I going to end up playing? And how many times am I going to beat myself up about it after that game? We already lost. I'm going to lose again. Like it's stuff like that's going to happen. The last thing I think I want to do is add to my own sadness by doing it myself. Self-imposed sadness is just pitiful.
It really is.
So it's a little bit like, it's not that serious. Let it go. There's another chance.
How long did it take you to get to that spot? Because I feel like that's a very like long years of like, now I have arrived to this.
Well, it was one of those typical, like when I turned the lights on and I was seeing like what was the, source of my sadness. It was like, just me. Like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Walking past the mirror and giving it the finger
you're doing
guns.
it again.
Like, you are the problem. That makes total sense. And I think, personally as well, that like seeing basketball as just basketball, for you, are you at a place now where you would like to say that basketball doesn't affect you off the court, or that's still something that you're working on?
It definitely still affects me. Like it's still a large part of my life, but I think I've tried to make sure that basketball is not the only thing that defines me.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I know if I have a bad game, or if, like even a streak of bad games, because I might play tomorrow and have a really bad game tomorrow. I don't know. My point is, I'm not going to be defined by a basketball. I refuse. It's a child's game, like a glorified child's game. I refuse to be upset and defined by just a basketball. There's so much more to humans than that. That
is so everything I needed to hear right now. I feel like you're really speaking to my soul. That is just because I struggle with that immensely, and I'm not even close to being at the point yet where I can differentiate my self-worth from basketball, and that's something that I'm working on, and I'm pretty far off, but I'm trying to get there, and it's a work in progress, and we're on our way. So that is just clicks to that. We need more of that in our lives. So I would like to ask you about your downtime away from basketball. Basketball is a word. Don't define yourself by basketball. Who are you away from the court?
Well, I think the obvious one is the art one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of that. I've kind of struggled to like narrow down into one specific, what is that word?
Like defining yourself by a hobby?
No, like a one specific art form.
Oh,
like,
yep.
So I think for me, I'm really big on just keeping my hands busy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that looks like. Like it might not be painting. I've kind of got a little bit of an art block in that thing. So I'm like, all right, I'll keep my hands busy by journaling. Mm-hmm. Mum, she's a poetry writer, or poet, sorry. And, you know, like maybe I'll just want to try poetry. If it's not anything like that creative, then I'll try something else, like learn a new dish. I don't know. All I do and all I want to do is something positive with my hands.
Yeah.
So whatever I make, whatever I'm doing, it has to be positive.
I think the whole creating thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we've spoken about this a little bit. For people that don't know, Penina is an amazing artist. And I say artist in many forms, like what you just said. It's not always just painting and drawing. I believe being an artist is more of a mindset and an ability to create and just like appreciate creative things.
Yeah.
But that kind of art block, right? So we talk about like things that define us and what make up who we are. Say you're an artist and you experience an art block. What does that look like for you?
For me, it kind of just looks like I literally cannot translate what I'm trying to communicate.
Yeah.
And I could want to paint this and it just will not look anything like it. So what to do in said art block? I like to just kind of find inspiration in life. Like that sounds so corny and so
it's so
cheesy.
True. Yeah.
But life actually, if you pay attention and observe it, has so much to offer. Like take a walk. Like sometimes I'll walk because I live in Richmond, walk from like Bridge Road down to Swan. And the amount of like flowers, random animals, people that you'll like walk across, like murals on the wall. It's really kind of beautiful, really. So I'm at risk of sounding really like hippie.
No, I love it. I love it so much. It's
but
so
sometimes
great.
like it's just like that is the coolest flower I've ever seen, and then that's just a little bit of life that I'll get.
I think we need that as as people, but as athletes, so much, right? So we spend a lot of our time like almost breaking ourselves down and comparing ourselves to other people and like really just telling ourselves we're not good enough to try and become, the next level. And to have a part of us that notices growth and creativity, I think that's super, super important. And not a lot of athletes, not just basketball players, athletes have the ability to then find a creative place to put a part of their energy that is solely committed to growth and not tearing ourselves down. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's art. For you, art is also a massive thing. Yeah. Did art stuff, did that come from your childhood? At what point in your life did you find that being a creative was important to you?
It's actually a lot more darker than that. It was an outlet. Yeah. Yeah. It had a whole bunch of really ugly, dark feelings. And and this is why it was such a big thing for me to keep my hands positive instead of doing negative things with my hands. And usually it was some kind of like self-harm or self-sabotage thing. I wanted to communicate it in a different way. Yeah. And art became the safest way to do so.
To communicate your feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like your hands are talking for you.
Yep. Yeah. And it became a bit of a release that way. Like sometimes I'd draw some really like messed up things and it'd be like, you know what, at least it's on paper and not on me. Yeah.
I've been there. Yeah. I've definitely been there.
Yeah.
When did that kind of period of your life start when you felt like you needed an outlet? Like at what point, like was it through college?
Yeah.
Was it?
College.
Talk to me about that. Talk to me about college for you.
College, I always say it's like a petri dish for like 18 to 22-year-olds just trying to find themselves. Like it's grimy, it's dirty. There's just lots of weird things happening. You're by yourself. That sucks. And you're usually like however many miles away from home. You're trying to call, maybe you might cry one day. I'm trying to call mom and she's like, it's 2 a.m. here.
Yeah.
Like, Mom, I need you now, though.
Yeah.
So, like it's a time where you're going to have to realize, like, I need to lean on myself. And what does that look like when I lean on myself? Is it, the darker ways? And sometimes it was. And that's when I started realizing the whole art thing.
Like a bit of a saving grace. Yeah. The petri dish metaphor, that's really good. That's really good because like how do you describe, and for a lot of people, sometimes they experience that in their high school or primary school even, but like how do you describe college to someone that isn't an athlete? Like there's no words for what people are about to experience.
Yeah.
Like the demands on you, you're like learning how to communicate with not just other people, but yourself.
Yeah.
The pressures from every direction. Like it's really just hectic.
Yeah.
I want to wind it back a second. And so for people that don't know, Penina is a New Zealander.
Yes.
And she grew up in New Zealand. I would like you to tell us about what you were like as a kid. What's your family like? And what is like, where do you come from? Tell me about you.
I was so awkward as a kid. Oh my goodness. Like my first bucket was for the other team. Mm-hmm. I would lie about injuries to my parents because I didn't want to play on Wednesday nights. And I still remember Wednesday nights, and because there was no women's or like little girls teams, I had to play with the boys.
Yeah.
So I'm already like too tall for my own good. My shoes are too big. I'm just this gangly, awkward kid that probably had like a notebook that I'd want to like bring out, or like a book I'd want to read in half time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was an awful time for me. New Zealand is beautiful though.
Yes. Yeah. So like how would your mum describe you? Outside of sport, I guess, like at home, like who were you like as you know, Penina when she gets home from school? Like who was that kid?
It's funny. There's probably like two modes. There's the whole like she's been pushing for me to do my artwork more and stuff. She's been super supportive in that. And then the other one is, were you nice today?
I love that.
You're not being mean?
Yes.
Oh, Mum.
I love that so much. Yeah. That's so sweet. Do you miss like? Obviously you're far away from home.
Yeah.
Like, is that hard for you to be so far away from home? And is that something that like, you know, you wish you could get back to more?
Yeah, definitely. Like I love being in the same room as my siblings.
Yeah.
My brother and my sister are everything to me. So being away from them is hard. And I got to, sorry, it sounded like I was going to choke up there, but it's the salad.
It's the salad.
It was like well-timed. I got to see them in New Zealand for like a quick 36 hours, and just seeing them was like, oh, come back with me.
Yes, yes. And are they still based in New Zealand?
My brother's just been based this year for the first time in a while too. So he plays for the Breakers and has been doing the same thing.
Is it like comforting, I guess, to have a sibling that's gone through similar career things that you have? Like you guys can bounce off each other quite a bit.
Yeah. And sometimes it would just be like a simple sentence, and instead of having to give like massive loads of context, you just look at them and you just both look at each other like, bruh. Like, bruh, that was messed up.
Yeah, we get it. Yeah. We get it. It is helpful, especially sometimes I feel like parents or siblings that don't really understand the sporting world.
Yeah.
And then when you do have someone that does, you're like, you get it.
Yeah.
You gravitate towards them, and it just makes sense.
At the same time, my sister validates me because she's so like not involved in it.
Yeah.
Sometimes she'll be like, whoa. And I'm like, yes, validate me.
Yes. Yes, it's actually, you know, I had a conversation not long ago with one of my best friends who knows nothing about basketball. She's a makeup artist. She tries her best, but she has no idea about sport, really. And I was explaining a situation that happened to me a couple months ago with coaches and teammates and things, and she's listening to it and she's like, well, did you go to HR?
Yeah, I know. Like, what is HR?
There's no HR. Like, I can't. What do you mean? She's like, you know, it's your job and you should go to HR. And I was like, oh, you don't get it. But I love that you think it's outrageous enough to go to this mystery HR that doesn't exist for us.
Yes.
It's actually so funny, like that whole outside world out of sport. I guess actually that's a good question for you. Do you have in your life at the moment, like obviously our job is sport, like things that bring you back to this is life instead of this is basketball that we're doing all the time? Yeah,
actually one of my, I was thinking about that because I was like, why am I doing this? Like, you know, like you do have those moments where it's like, what am I doing? Like,
every day.
And of course you can do the whole typical like, oh, national team duties and, you know, Olympics is coming up, blah, blah, blah. I mean, no. Like, why am I actually doing this? Because you can't tell me that the Olympics, like, of course it's a big deal, but something has to take you daily.
Yes.
And I know the Olympics is a big goal, but what's the small goals?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, it was my brother. It was playing pickup with my brother at like midnight in New Zealand. Those are my favorite moments of basketball in like the last 5 years.
I love that.
And it was just like us doing a tan, because he's got long hair, like actually he's got longer hair than me. And it's just like the two like Davidson buns just like going in and out. And I was like, this is wonderful. I like basketball.
Yeah. Like this is my why.
Yes, this was why. It was, and it was like so sore the next day because like he goes for hours. And I was like, when are we going again? Yeah. And I was like, that's what I forgot. Like that kind of like school kid joy that you have, like wanting to go back.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, and especially, I think we've spoken about this before, but the systematic setup of what professional basketball is, it's almost from the moment you set foot in a junior program that becomes a representative program that gets serious, you are funneled into a system.
Yeah.
And sometimes that system doesn't have space for you to be a person.
To be a human.
To be a human. You know, it's so much at a young age that is, you know, it is pushing you towards a certain path and taking away your why sometimes. Sometimes your why, if it's not the pick up with your brother, it might be your why is something not even to do with basketball. Yeah. It's competing maybe. Yeah. And those systems kind of push you towards a certain thing and don't give you areas to grow. And I guess like for me, I remember feeling like I didn't fit the mold a lot.
Yeah.
What for you, were there situations where you were in basketball and you kind of looked around and you're like, I don't fit here?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a Polynesian woman.
Yeah.
I like the uniforms. I hate them. Yeah. I hate them. Every single game, all I can think about is how much I hate the uniforms because I don't feel good in it.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I'm thinking that.
Yeah.
And it's all because like I'm aware I'm a little bit thicker than, you know, my next teammate, because that's just me. I'm half someone. I'm built a little different.
Do you remember at what moment it was that you were like, oh, I don't fit the mold here. Like I am different. Like was there like an aha moment for you where you all of a sudden realized and that kind of fell on top of you?
Nah, it was a gradual. Mm-hmm. It was just like those small kind of like uncomfortable, like, oh, like I don't feel good in this uniform.
Yeah.
And I'm big on like to look good, play good, that whole thing.
Yeah.
I always felt good in Torfin's uniform. It was black. It was beautiful. Loved it. Fit nice. And then I was trying to put the WNBL uniform and I'm looking around like, is this tight?
It's tiny.
I was like, oh, no, it's not.
Yeah.
All right. Like,
trust me.
Yeah. And then that started like wearing me down a little. And then I think couple years ago it changed from the like baggier one to a smaller one,
super tight,
and I had such a negative reaction to it. I tried to wear like a different top, like a baggy top, and got told off because it wasn't, you know, uniform.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, I can't believe I can't even focus on a layout right now because all I can think about is how much this like singlet's going to come up. And then it was like stuff like that started rolling and rolling and rolling. And now it's just like this battle of self-worth in a stupid uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it worse in the Australian basketball system than it is in New Zealand? That kind of you have to look a certain way? Is that
It's different. It's different. Yeah.
Because I remember for me on so many levels, but you know, one that I can kind of draw to now was when I was at the Institute, and there was a lot of comments of like, oh, we want you to play like this person, we want you to be like this person, and we want you to look like this person, move like this person. And it took away from how about just being me? How about just being Anneli and picking up skills of someone and looking at the way they might play defense here and incorporating that into you instead of trying to change yourself to be someone else. Have you experienced that more in Australian basketball?
It's hard. Like, I don't feel too comfortable saying completely Australian just because I haven't played in too many other countries enough.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like if I had more experience elsewhere, I'd probably, like, I guess in age groups, I didn't notice it as much. Like you probably had the whole get fitter thing growing up. I'm not sure what it was like here.
Yeah.
All I know was since my time here, like it got dark.
Yeah.
I'd be writing in my diary stuff like, don't eat.
Yeah.
And then it was like, this has nothing to do with basketball.
Yeah.
And everything about looking like a certain way in the uniform.
Yeah.
And I was like, instead of worrying about what I needed to work on my game, I was trying to go to the gym to lose weight.
Yeah. Which is so outside of things that we can control 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And isn't it crazy that our brains can see this thing that we're supposed to do that is a game and tie it into what we look like.
Yeah.
And I've done that so many times.
Yeah.
I cannot express that enough. I have gone and watched film of myself and been like, oh my God, why do you look like that? And I'm like, oh, I should be thinking about, the way I've, done a layup or in the wrong spot. But instead I'm like, why do you look like
How
that?
did my shorts look?
Oh my God. How did I stand there? Why is it bunched up like that? And that whole idea of body image, I mean, I can narrow mine down to always being compared to other people. So I now still continue to compare myself to other people.
Yeah.
Usually other athletes, because that's the environment that I'm in. I find myself comparing myself all the time to the people that I'm surrounded by. It kind of brings me to the basketball inclusiveness space. And I, for the longest time, have had so many questions and been questioning myself about whether or not basketball is an inclusive environment, or what I do every day, which is a sport. Am I being inclusive? Is it an inclusive space? And I think that, for a lot of the time, it's great for so many things, but it has so many holes. What would you like to see moving forward get better in this community that we call sport, or this thing that we do every day, to try and make it more inclusive, I guess?
I don't know. That's an interesting question, because I didn't really answer your last one. My point was, is it me being in Australia? Is it me being in my 20s? Are there other stuff at play?
Yeah.
Is it because I have a lack of representation as a Polynesian woman? So I guess representation means a lot. Yeah. I don't know. I went to some panel a couple of weeks ago, and they talked about this, and they said it's a really big problem in Australia. So they said it was a big problem in Australia. I don't know what the panel was. It was really good though. And there was an argument on, do you start at grassroots or do you start at professional level to fix the problem? And it was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it, and because I didn't grow up here, I'm unsure what it was like at the grassroots level. I just noticed it's quite bad at our level.
Yeah. I think that whole start at the professional and the grassroots, and maybe hopefully close the gap in the middle.
And what does that look like? I don't know. They came up with the uniform, the one uniform to, do you change the different uniforms for different people in the team? That's never been done before. I'm not sure. I don't know what it looks like. I think stuff like when the beach volleyball women kind of revolted against that and the uniform for them, that was a great start.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, they stood for something bigger, and now they're probably going to wear more comfy uniforms. I don't know. I think it's also a problem if not everyone feels like that.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of is it just one or two people from every team, or does everyone feel like that? I don't know.
Yeah. When we talk about inclusivity, obviously body image and the way we see ourselves is huge. What about things like space for mental health in basketball? Because I, for one, think that we are better, but we are still awful.
Yeah.
There is not a lot of space to be mentally ill in professional sport, definitely professional women's sport.
Yeah.
I have found that being someone that was I am a diagnosed person with depression and anxiety, and I am in the process of getting diagnosed for ADHD. I find that there's a lot of talk of, we definitely accept that here, but it's in reality, there's not a lot of space for mentally ill people in sport.
No, there's not. Yeah, it's a bit of a in the deep end, like a college situation.
Yeah.
I've always felt professional was you got to do college all over again in your terms with more knowledge, experience, right. With the mental health aspect, you're right. And I don't know what the solution is, which sucks.
Yeah.
I do know, though, there is not a lot of room. And I think it's hard when your job is a performative-based.
Yes.
It's performative-based. So a lot of it relies on how we look. And if we look good, and a lot of looking good is are you happy when you score a layup?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I remember one time, this was in college. This was wild. I had a game-winning shot, and I hadn't played all game. So I only got literally the last 15 seconds. Managed to get the game-winning shot. Someone blogged about it after and was like, I knew she was going to get it because she was smiling at halftime. And I was like, I smiled at halftime at some kid, but I actually went to the locker room, had a cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
yes, exactly.
and what happens if they saw the reverse?
Yeah.
Like, would they have like absolutely murdered me in the blogs because I didn't look happy at halftime? Like,
Yeah.
and was I going to be like crucified for not looking happy or smiling at halftime? I don't know. It was just ridiculous. It was, yeah.
Isn't that funny? Like the way that, I mean, supporters and online people are a whole different ballgame. And I do want to get there. I want to talk a little bit about mental health and physical health, right? So in my view, if I've done an ankle, that's respected as an injury.
Yeah.
It's they've done their ankle, they can't play for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
I have panic attacks during games quite a lot, and it's been worse this year than in previous years. Yep. And if I have a panic attack and I don't play the rest of the game, which hasn't happened yet, but I have wanted to not play the rest of a game because of the panic attack that I've had this season. And I have wanted to just stay in the locker room and put a towel over my head and not be there. I don't feel as if that would be respected at all.
No.
People wouldn't understand that.
Yeah.
And there's parts of that I don't know how we get people to understand other than talking about it a lot, because even when I bring it up within my own team, people are like, I understand, I've been through that before. And I was like, I need to know these things. Like, I need to know that if I come out at halftime and I'm like, guys, I literally feel like I can't, that's going to be accepted. What's your experience with like people seeing physical health, mental health as a physical thing?
I have two stories actually. So one of my really lovely friends, she had a panic attack in training, and it was hard because and what was hard was you looked around the room and you could see the people that recognized it and the people that didn't. And the people that recognized it were all the ones that went and asked if she was okay. Yeah. And the other ones were confused and didn't know how to, breathing problems and da-da-da-da-da. And that was heartbreaking because it was like she was clearly struggling and, had to go to the doctors for it like you would for an ankle. And the way it was treated was just shocking. Yeah. And I was trying to be like, girl, I have panic attacks all the time. Yeah. It just looks like sweat.
It looks different for everybody.
And I'm just dying after a really intense drill, but really I'm fighting for my life.
Yeah, there's so much more going on that you have no idea about.
So there's like that, like just, you're right, it was treated completely different from an ankle injury. The other was I had a sleeve in college to hide stuff on my arm, and one time it bled through. How
was that handled by the people
so
around
awkward
you?
It was just very, very awkward and very like walking on glass.
Did people ask you about it when they saw it, or
some
did they
people
not?
No, some people who knew kind of like whatever. I had someone grab it and be like, ew, and I was like, yeah, fair, like I mean, I don't even know. So, that's been my two experiences of like physically seeing something happen in trainings where it was just treated like, oh, I don't know, this is weird.
The confusion.
Yeah. And it's like, they're confused too. Yeah. She was confused in the panic attack. I was confused why I'm wearing why am I doing that? I don't know. But I think you're right. I think the start might be talking about it, and, it might be like a really awkward, like, I don't even know what to say or how to word it. I think just saying something will mean a lot more than just kind of the weird looks. Yeah,
exactly. I think I've shared on here before that I am medicated. Yeah. I have been medicated for the past 4 years. I take a SSRI, an anti-anxiety and an anti-panic medication. And sometimes these medications that we take for our mental health have physical responses. Yeah. And, when I say physical, some people might think, is it, you get confused. I lose balance. Yeah. When I go up and down on doses, I cannot feel my hands. I'm not allowed to be behind a vehicle. I'm not supposed to drive. And that's just something that I've accepted because I'd rather be on the medication than off. I still remember the first time I had that conversation with a coach. It was during an NBL1 game or NBL1 season. And at a practice, I had to go up to this coach and say, I'm not going to be able to play this weekend.
Yeah.
Because I'm changing my medication.
Yeah.
And the confusion on his face was like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're not going to be able to play this weekend? I was like, well, my medication is for my depression and anxiety. And when I change it, I'm not supposed to be behind a vehicle and I don't have any fine motor skills. Like I can barely move my hands. So I'm not going to be able to play in a basketball game. And if I do, I will be endangering myself for injury. And he, to the point, like he did not understand it to the point where he went to the GM of the club and was asking for clarification on whether or not I get paid for that game. So
an already mortifying situation just becomes 10 times worse.
Mortifying. And I think that I've learned how to have those conversations better. Over time, I've learned how to do that. And like the medication piece and seeing a psych piece is like such another huge mountain to climb. Yeah. Have you had to have those conversations with coaches, not just about medication and those things, but even just about mental health with coaches? And what was their response like?
I've had to do that. So I was medicated in college. I took myself off because it was, like you said, like it's not a one fits for all. Like you have to do a lot of experimenting.
So many different types.
You had to try. And I wasn't willing to do that in basketball. Like there'd be times where I was like, I wasn't on the court, even though my body was. There'd be another time where I was falling asleep in training. And I was like, I don't want to deal with this. I've had some really great responses. Like my college coach was really good with stuff like this. And I didn't realize that's lucky. It can be lucky.
It can be lucky. Yeah, absolutely.
I've been pretty blessed. I've had really, really lovely, understanding coaches. Like New Zealand coaches have been amazing. Guys really good with stuff like that.
Do you think that there should be some sort of education system put in place for the WNBL or just actually any professional sport? I can't speak for AFL, AFLW, soccer, things like that. I can only speak for the basketball side. Where there's a mental health first aid course.
Absolutely.
That you have to complete as a coach, as an assistant, as anyone in a support staff.
Absolutely. Our jobs are so highly strung. Like we have emotions that range from either all the way up there or all the way down there all the time. Like all of our moments that we have in basketball is so like it's just massive, massive difference. So you're combating these huge experiences that we're already having as a team with your own emotions that are going like this. I was telling my dad once, I was like, it's literally like going like that.
Yes. I've used that same hand diagram very recently.
And trying to find a way to like bring it here is just near impossible.
It really is.
And because of that, you're at high risk of really, really dangerous things. That's like, I think needs to be talked about.
I think so too. I think the whole, I've had, again, some positive experiences where coaches are like, absolutely, take whatever time you need. Do you need to step out of practice? I wish there was more recognition for things like disassociation and like if a coach is like, I need you to focus more on the play, but they knew that you're changing your medication so you can't even remember where you park your car. Those are the small things I'd like people to be more aware of. The same way if you have pulled a hamstring recently and in training you're a bit slow off the start, someone's like, it's fine, she just did a hamstring, give her some time. I want that same grace and that same knowledge of not just depression and anxiety, but bipolar, ADHD, even things like borderline personality disorder. I want that. And I believe that we can get there if we speak about it enough, but it's so far off. It really is. And it feels, when I say it out loud, like such a simple thing, but it's just so difficult for some people to comprehend.
Well, and what's crazy about that is like what you had just explained to me sounds like with a little, like how far a little bit of grace goes. Because it's like when you know your coach has your back with it, you just can breathe within yourself. And like I said to you, the mortifying situation became significantly worse. I'm sure that would have made that weekend horrendous for you. And like I was thinking, if you had to play that game, the aftermath of that game would have been shocking. And that's why I think I'm a little bit more like put my foot down when it does come to stuff like this, because it's like, I'm going to be here for you during this game. who's going to be there for me in the afterfall?
Yep.
For the next following days?
Yeah.
None of you.
Yep.
I'm the one that has to deal with that.
It's me.
Yeah. So I will put me first in this situation where I know I'm going to be the one picking myself back up.
Yep. You know, I that brings me to like a thought pattern I was having not long ago where let's talk tournaments and national team play. And I mean, it could even be like a college tournament or things like that where you're functioning at such a high level for such a short period of time. It's like a whole season, but condensed into one. And for me, it was my experience with the Opals, which was amazing. I loved it. I loved every second of it. But as soon as it stopped, it was like, you're on your own. You're out in the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had some amazing teammates check in on me, but my feedback when they called me and asked, you know, High Performance called and asked for feedback was, I need you guys, and it was hard. It was very hard to say this, was I need you guys to teach yourselves about mental health and medication and knowing that I need you to check in on me a week after a tournament, a couple of days after a tournament. I need that.
Yeah.
How have you managed to deal with those intense situations and that calm down, that kind of like what you were saying before, like it's me that has to pick me up? How did you learn that? Because surely there was a moment in your life where you didn't know that yet.
Yeah. I read a lot.
Yeah.
That's like the fan. I know it's like funny, you know, say like fantasy books and watch.
No,
like,
I'm the
TV.
same. I'm there.
But sometimes it's nice to disappear into a world that's not your own just for a little bit and just kind of like immerse yourself in that, because at least it's just taking you out a little bit until it's nice enough to come back down to earth.
Yes. Penina and I are very similar in that we've actually bonded over a lot of creativity stuff and fantasy novels. I am the same.
My secret's out.
Yes, they know. I was even talking to some of the NBL guys of like how they disappear. A lot of it is video games. Like they disappear.
Yeah, I was going to say video games is another one because the same reason.
It's if you want to almost, and I think maybe that's a high performance thing, but we want to be anywhere that is not our current world. Yeah. So we inject ourselves into something else.
Yeah.
And how nice it is, how nice and brilliant. And I that feeling is so great to be able to immerse yourself in something like a book. Yeah. Which, you know, for people, it might be video games, it might be movies, it might be, you know, for me, it's Grey's Anatomy at the moment, but it can be anything that takes us away from where we are right now. Now, this is a follow-up question from that. Do you think that's a healthy thing? Or do you think it's a coping mechanism? Or, I mean, because I'm on two sides. I think it is very healthy because it helps us regulate our emotions, but also, why can't I deal with my
and
emotions?
not really looking at it? I get it.
What are your thoughts?
Two things is anything in excess is bad. Yeah. So if you're just like disappearing for days on end, it's like, okay, come back to earth and have a look at your feelings. Yeah. The second one is, like I said before, if at that moment you need to do something positive with your hands to avoid doing something bad, do it. Yeah. Especially if you're in the high danger zone. And I would say the high danger zone is right after a tournament, because I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's that polarizing emotion of like you just up here and the next day you're like on the plane back home, you're like back down here. Yeah. So whatever you can like help that fall from grace, I think you need to like buffer it on the way down. And then I think when you're feeling a little bit safer and a little less like highly strung, you can start looking at some things.
Do you wish, like looking back at your life, I don't want to say career because I want to keep it as like more than basketball, what are some things that you would have changed, like the way you've gone about certain situations or things that you wish you knew?
I was going to say this before, like as yucky as college felt and as yucky as some of the experiences I had, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't be here with like saying what I'm saying and living how I'm living if it wasn't for those experiences. And I'm pretty big on that. I wouldn't change anything. And I say sometimes like, go do it. You know, like I always tell these little kids, go do it. It might be the wrong thing. That doesn't matter. At least you tried. Yeah. The worst thing you can do is just sit and be like, oh, I wish I did. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't care if it was an awful, awful time. Do it. Yeah. You can always come back.
Yeah. The experience of things is always going to be a good thing.
That has way more value than playing safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I think that recently I've been struggling with this freeze response.
Yeah.
Right? When things get nasty or dark for me, I freeze.
Yeah.
Have you ever had experience with the whole, I don't want to know what I'm going to do, so I'm going to do nothing?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Absolutely. There's like a lot of procrastination.
Yes.
It's like I'll just be doing the weirdest things.
Yes. Yes, to avoid doing what you need to do.
Like, I don't know, like walk in circles
Yes.
or like, I don't know. But I think that's okay too. Like, I don't think you always have to be moving. And I'm kind of big on like, I'm not very superstitious.
Yeah.
And because I just don't think they're like, things go wrong.
Yeah.
And things like might not work out the way you do. So I just think try something different, you know, walking in a circle. It didn't work. I might go walk the other direction.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm just big on try something different until it feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. I also have this vivid memory of I was sitting with my housemate and we knew we needed to do washing. We needed to finish renovating the bathroom. We had so many things we needed to do. We could have gone and done extra shots at the stadium. But instead we looked outside and we went and saw that the neighbours had puppies, 7 of them. So we all ran outside and avoided our life tasks for the day and hang out with the puppies in the backyard. And that is a long way of me kind of introducing grind culture.
Yeah.
And feeling like we have to be doing so much all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's gotten worse since the online world has become a thing, so we continue to compare ourselves at comparative.
Yeah.
But the grind culture is a double-edged sword that is what makes us so successful and so miserable at the same time.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about grind culture? Tell me things.
Cairns. I moved to Cairns for the NBL 1 and that was the best basketball decision I've made, I think. And that was because we would have a game and like, don't get me wrong, we were working out in the week. Yeah. Like Kayla and I working out with some of the Taipan boys. It was really good. We were getting pushed. We were scrimmaging against the guys, Pilates every day, playing on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We were just out in the Great Barrier. And it was the first time I was like, I just had 3 days in a row in the ocean and in the waterfall. Wonderful. Like, and that's actually why I liked, like, I know hotel quarantine sucked for a lot of people. Yeah. Which I completely understand. I loved it. Yep. It was the first time I could do whatever I wanted and not be like, don't you have a training to get to or this to do? It was the first time like people expected me to do nothing. Yes. Yes. I loved it. I relate to that so heavily. I literally read a book for about 8 hours. I watched Peaky Blinders in 3 days and no one could question it. No one could say, like, you should be doing more. Yes. Because it's such an ugly thing about being a successful athlete, right? Is because what makes us so great is our motors, how much we push ourselves, all these things. But it also means that we can't do nothing. Yeah. We can't do nothing. And I say we is a very broad term because there's a lot of people that just have the knack of being able to do nothing and not feeling guilt or whatever. But this grind culture that is infected our lives, and I don't think that this is specific to athletes. I think this is, it's hyper fixated in athletes, but it's also in a lot of people's lives. The art of just being where your feet are and doing nothing. Yeah. That is almost frowned upon in professional sports. What? Because I think when we spoke about this the first time, you said something to me that kind of stuck with me, and it was, if I don't want to go to a workout and instead I want to go home and paint or just create something or sew or just sit. What if I just want to sit? That doesn't make me any less of an athlete. No. And that has stuck with me since we spoke about it the first time. How did you get to the point where you were like, you know what, it doesn't make me any less to be able to just be? Well, and I'm going to preface this, it worked for me. Yeah. So I know different modules work for different people. I know people that can work out 3 times a day and that works for them. Yep. That's great. That's not me. Mm-hmm. Like maybe I want to do that instead. And I've noticed because if I try follow someone else's module, like work out 3 times a day, I'll probably have the worst game ever. Yeah. But if I follow mine and that might be just sit and then work out like maybe once a day. Yeah. That works a lot better for me. And I think it's finding that balance for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I'm big on that. Like I don't want to force But like I said, I'm not going to turn around and be like, you're weird.
Yeah, for wanting to do that.
Yeah. And I would hope you do the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever
Absolutely.
gets you to that game and playing your best, do that.
Yeah.
And just do that on your own.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think that recently, actually, after a lot of the games we've been playing, I've had a lot of kids come up to me and kind of just say things like, oh, it's so great to watch you and see how supportive you are of your teammates and things like that. And, I listen to you because, I've been very open about my mental health journey. And it's been alarming to me recently, the amount of parents, kids, people, young kids that have reached out to me asking how I've managed to deal with mental health in professional sport.
Yeah.
What do you say to those young kids?
You're right. Like really quickly, you're right about it. It's alarming how many adults come up to you.
Yeah.
That scares me. Like the kids you kind of expect, because it's like, oh yeah, you do it for the kids, but it's the adults where you're like, whoa, how long have you been carrying this? Yeah. But the kids, I don't know. That's why I said and I'm at risk of sounding hippie again, but it's just not that serious.
Yeah.
Like it is serious. Of course it is. I'm not saying live life just so blasé.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Like, there's so much more to life. Like than this. Just it's like a little bit of just like getting out yourself and just. Oh, I sound so happy. I'm like,
no.
Just live, man.
Just,
like, no,
just do your thing.
But like with kids, like you just want to tell them, like, just be happy.
Yeah.
Make sure basketball makes you feel good.
Yeah.
When you start hitting a certain age, then see.
Yeah.
But like my biggest advice to the kids is like, as long as you are happy playing basketball, that is all we can ask for right now.
Yeah.
Because that is when you play your best.
Yeah.
When you're happy. And it's the worst thing, a kid at a camp, and they're just like stressed and it's just have some fun.
It really kills
Whatever
me.
that looks like. I don't know. If that's gaming with your friends, go game with your friends. If that's shooting buckets, do it. I just think life is not meant to be so stressed and like.
Yeah. No, I think that, the whole adults thing coming up to you and expressing the things that they're feeling, I always feel super touched by that stuff because I'm like, the fact that you've probably been carrying this for so long and you're able to share that with me, I'm super blessed. And I usually take time to then, find out what the Instagram handle is and kind of go back and forth because I think that a lot of the time we're put on pedestals. And the reason I like talking so much about, I don't like it, but I think it's necessary about the things that I go through because it's like I wish you knew, like, because all you see is someone that has, last year I won the MVP of the league and I was miserable. Yeah. I was absolutely miserable. I was going through so much stuff and I still carry that stuff with me.
Yeah.
But being able to vocalize that to people and then being like, oh,
yeah.
wow, I had no idea. You wouldn't.
No.
But this is good that you now realize that even people performing at their highest are usually struggling the most.
It hurts.
It does. And for me, the reactions of people like, no, there's no way. That kind of always gets me a little bit because it's like, oh, you can be high functioning and still struggle with life.
Us athletes are very high functioning and all of it, like anxiety, depression, all of it, because that's our job. It's performative, and sometimes you have to do all of it with a smile, even when it's the last thing you feel like doing.
The last thing you feel like doing, like seriously. I kind of want to bridge into kind of like are you a planner? Are you a goal person, or do you kind of go day by day? Like when I ask about like what your plans are for the future, like what does that look like for you if you think beyond basketball? Are you just kind of like in the moment day by day? What's your...
I have lists, lots of lists, like lots of short-term ones, lots of like long-term ones. And so I'm a list writer.
You're a list person.
Yeah.
What is your, like, some goals look like for you? And I'm not talking just sport. I'm talking about what are some life goals that you're looking towards?
I want to work with kids somehow. I'm not sure what that looks like yet, like, because it's a bit of a heartbreaking one. And I've just got to figure out like what realm I can do that with. I haven't really told many people this, but like, why not tell it now? I really wanted to open up a coffee shop with
That's
like
so
flowers.
cool. Yes. I'm here for that.
Yeah. So I really want to do that sometime. I'm not sure how that looks like, but
I would come every day to your coffee shop. I feel like you'd be a great barista.
well, I'm hoping my sister by then like might have a tattoo license, and so we can just do a joint one.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's definitely something we'll run
Coffee,
with them.
tattoos, and plants.
Yep.
Oh my God. You're just speaking my language. That is everything.
Perfect trio.
Yeah. I wake up every morning. I have my coffee. I sit next to my one of a million plants and I look at my tattoo like, I need more of these.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
To do that all in one
Well,
place.
the Davidson's got you.
That is brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
When did that idea kind of spring? Is that a recent thing or something you've wanted to do for a while?
It's something I wanted to do for a while. I was like, look, I like flowers. I like coffee. Why not do it?
Yeah.
And then my sister, she's a massive artist, like really good artist. I love her work. She was kind of talking about like, oh, maybe I should get a tattoo done. And I was like,
Talk to me more.
yeah, talk to me in about 5 years.
Yeah. I've got a plan.
Yeah.
I've got a plan. I think, you know, again, we kind of jumped into some things and, you know, for anyone that doesn't know Penina, she has played in the WNBL for a very long time. She's played Tall Ferns. She played at University of California, Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
And she also does modeling, and you've been doing some New Balance stuff. Tell me about how that came around. Like, because I randomly see you when I drive in Melbourne on like the side of the road, and I'm like, it's P. You know, like how did that happen?
It was a really cool opportunity. The New Zealand New Balance team kind of reached out to me a couple of years ago. I'm like, hey, do you want to do some Instagram posts? And I was like, yeah,
absolutely.
And then when I signed, I was like, what did I get myself into? I have to post regularly now. Like,
oh my God.
And I have massive post anxiety. Yeah. So like every time I've posted, I probably like hovered again, like share, like throw my phone away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they reached out to me and I've just been kind of doing like Instagram posts for them ever since. And then when I was home, they were like, hey, look, we have a big opportunity with Foot Locker if you'd love to do it. And I was like, wow. Something different.
Yeah, your face is everywhere.
Well, that meant a lot to me because I tried to model a couple of years ago and I got told I was too tall and too old.
Oh.
Yeah, and that really discouraged me.
Wow. Modeling is not a space for inclusivity at all.
Oh, it's brutal. I have some model friends and I'm just like, every time I feel bad about basketball, I just look at my friends like, wow.
That is terrible.
Yeah.
There's no space for like self-expression or anything like that. But if you haven't seen that Foot Locker New Balance ad, go look it up because P's doing her thing. She looks great. It's awesome. So much fun. And like, I mean, for me to see a female athlete in a New Balance ad, that's huge. Like, I mean, just as a fellow female basketball player, but like, what did that mean to you to be able to bring, you know, you spoke before about being a Polynesian woman. Like, what did that mean to you?
That was everything. And like I said, it's representation. Like Moana meant a lot to me because of the same like stuff. So like, yeah, that meant a lot.
That's so awesome. Yeah. I really love that. And I guess the like moving into like, I kind of brought up before like fans and things like that and the way that people talk to you and stuff. How do you think other people see you? Like, how do you think other people see you? When people look at Penina, how do you think other people see you?
I've had a lot of people say that they were like scared or intimidated, and I get it. I have a resting bee face. I totally get it. I'm not mad at it. I know I scowl. That would be like my mom. Like, were you nice today? Did you scowl? Like, so I am aware of like how I come across at first, but I'm like, I am a mess. I mean, I want to open a flower coffee shop. I think that says enough.
You're a teddy bear.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But like even like I guess in your peers and stuff, do you ever think that people look at you and just see absolutely nothing of what you're about? Or do you think that as time goes on, you believe that you've been able to grow into this Penina where people can understand you and see you for who you are as soon as they look at you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like quiet either. Mm-hmm. So like if we have a new teammate or something, I'll try and get to know them within like the first couple of days. So hopefully they know what I'm about. And I'm like, don't worry, I have a scary face.
Yeah. I'm soft.
Yeah.
So like the second half of that question is like, you know, how do you think people see you versus who you actually are? And that's really difficult for a lot of people to answer.
Yeah.
Who are you? Who are you? Talk, like if you can put it into words of, you know, maybe some things that you value or experiences or things that you think can really not define you, but add to people's understanding of you.
Yeah.
How would you say that?
I'm a bunch of things. I'm like a bunch of things, like the people I've loved before, the people, you know, I'm going to love. Like I'm a big person of love. Like I have it tatted on me. Mm-hmm. So I'm just everything I love. Flowers, bees, I don't know. Like, again, hippie.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I'm my mother's daughter. I'm my brother and sister's sister. Like I'm just all of that. Yeah. Like it's, I don't know. I kind of just like grab a little things like along the way and then just take what I like and leave behind and then try and show that.
You're an ever evolving person being.
Yeah.
You're a person. You are a person. We are evolving. And I think that, again, I bring it back to the fact that as athletes, I really want people to see us as people, as a person with feelings and emotions that can be, you know, feel that words that are said to them and feel experiences. We are people first and always. And that kind of brings me to the end of this, what I wanted to talk to you about. And I've said this almost at the end of every episode, but like we could talk for ages. There's so many things that we can cover. I am really appreciative of how open and honest and vulnerable you are in such a strong way. Like when people hear the word vulnerable, they're like, oh, that means they're soft and not strong. You are vulnerable in the way that it makes people feel strong. Like I feel strength in our conversation and I feel whole and I feel understood and seen. And I think if people, you know, if someone was to ask me like, who is Penina Davidson, I would be like, she is someone that makes people feel seen. Oh. And I truly mean that. And through not just this conversation, but every interaction I've had with you and why it was so important for me to be able to have people hear the way your journey has taken you and your ability to kind of talk about things that people don't talk about. I think that if anybody could take 1% of the ability to feel seen the way you do, it would just make the world a better place. And so I am so thankful that you came on, and I feel you are able to bounce off a lot of my experiences really well. And this is the first time I've been able to open up on here about a lot of the things that I've been through too, just because, you know, talking to a fellow human has experienced a lot of the same things is really important. And the visibility of mental health, the visibility of body image, depression, anxiety, bipolar, BPD, all these things is the most important thing to me at the moment in sport. And I'm hoping that through conversations like this, we continue to grow as people, we continue to grow as a community. And, you know, so far I've had 3 NBL players on this. So I'm hoping that this reaches the audiences of young boys and girls that are, you know, not used to hearing about mental health in sport. And I think that is so, so important. So thank you again for coming on here. And I really appreciate it. And we will definitely get you on again soon. This is Under the Surface with Anneli Maley and Penina Davidson.